gurgling up, blobs of it crashing in that very thick way onto the shore. That was very dramatic.
As a professional photographer, part of what you're expected to be is perfectly neutral about, at least in a journalistic sense, about what you were doing. But I imagine that it was hard to do. How were these scenes affecting you emotionally, or were they not affecting you emotionally?
Oh, it was affecting me emotionally. It's you just have to go along with what's going on, but in your mind you're thinking, wow, I've never seen this before. I've never seen this large of an operation before. Wow, how are they going to clean that area with just siphons? They had these trucks, I guess they were water trucks or tankers with hoses that sucked up oil. And men would be out right by the marina, over the side, with the hoses in the water, trying to clean it up. And it felt like it was just a little toothpick trying to pick up all that oil in this vast area. So that was a thought, wondering, gosh, are they really going to clean it up? Is it really going to be gone?
Did you have any sense of the motivation, and maybe that's a negative, I don't mean to make that sound negative, what motivated Union to hire all these photographers to take pictures?
That was a very vague situation. We never got to meet anybody. I think they were all representatives arm's length away from the Union Oil people. We were never really given any specifics to photograph. It was just, go cover this event, this oil spill. Whatever you see, just shoot it. And we needed to deliver undeveloped film to them at the end of the day. It got monotonous after the first 3 or 4 days because the activities were fairly similar. We would all try and find areas that had crews of individuals saving wildlife. That tugged at us, and we felt that it was something that would be more interesting to see than a vast scenic shot of just this oil and industrial equipment out on the beach. So we were not really directed by them at all. It was just whatever we got.
Mm-hmm. Since 1969, I'm sure that you've had opportunities to shoot all kinds of situations. What since 1969 would you say is that you photographed that's of a comparable scale?
Well, nothing. I don't specialize in events such as these disasters. I'm not a photojournalist per se. I'm a commercial photographer. And most commercial photography, you're trying to make things look very beautiful to a point where it's almost unreal. So my contrast, the contrast in what I did for the coverage of the oil spill and what I did later really were black and white in that sense. And I've learned to respect the journalists a lot more because it's not easy to capture something that isn't staged as it unfolds, and to get something that's usable as a journalist, I think is quite a challenge. For us, for our commercial work, we have large crews setting up things, sweeping up the foreground, rotating the tires so they're all even, making sure that the hair isn't flying, makeup is on, etc. So it's just the opposite of what I did at the covering the oil.
How would you say that that event, either personally or as part of humanity, and you can answer either way, how would you say it's affected your life or our lives?
Well, it's affected my life in that I realized that it's not enough to accept bad air somewhere, or seeing a polluted ocean, that we needed to speak up, because in reality, if you don't, those things will eventually disappear. The quality of life would disappear. It's made me more vocal when I'm traveling. If I see that it's obviously wrong to be dumping raw sewage in the ocean, I've had moments where I would find somebody and at least bring that up. And most of the time it's just a shrug and a, what can you do? But it never felt right. So those are things that I've learned, that you can't take it for granted. You can't take clean air, clean oceans, all that as something that we'll have forever, unless we step up and let them know that it's important.
If you were addressing a group of high school students, and you could ask each of them to do one favor in terms of protecting the environment, or more specifically, the California coast, what favor would you ask of them?
Well, the favor I would ask the students to be involved would be to make sure that you speak up when you see something that is not right, and to understand what is natural and what isn't natural. If it's natural, we may not be able to correct it, but if it's correctable, man-made, or something that affects us directly from what we do, we need to keep vigilant over who we enroll to think along with our thoughts, in terms of making sure that things are clean, things are the way it is. Because if we don't do that, generationally it could evade us. It would go away. So we need to stick with it. We know that now I see that a lot of the city drainage have little signs that say it drains to the ocean, do not dump, etc. Well, when we were in town earlier, none of those things were really made aware to us. So that's one area that I see from when I was here early to now. I see those signs now. I see little grates in front of the drainages off the streets, and signs that say, do not dump, go straight to the ocean. Those kinds of little things are adding up to make us more aware of how we can be part of keeping things cleaner, which eventually affects all of us in our health and in our well-being.
In your opinion, what would you say is today's most ominous threat to the California coastline?
I don't know if there's only one situation or one event that might be ominous, but the commercial shipping is a definite area that we need to be aware of. They are far away out there, and we don't see visually the damage or the effects that they're causing. But we need to make sure that the regulations are there and that enforcement can be effective enough to make sure that they are maintaining, or they're leaving the ocean that they're sailing through in the same clean condition as they leave us. They can't be, they can't be purging anything. They can't be cleaning their tanks out there. Those are all things that are not visible to us, but we need to make sure that everyone understands that it's important to protect. So I would think that the commercial shipping out there in our channel is a very important thing to keep track of, to make sure that nothing goes awry.
If you were to receive a call from President Obama, and President Obama said, James, I'm going to grant you one favor in relation to the protection of the California coastline, what favor would you ask him to grant?
I would be a little facetious on this one because I would ask him to grant it to someone else who's more capable, who's more trained in it, who have gone through the proper education to understand. All I can do really is to be aware that if you toss your cigarette butt there, it's not good. And I may at this stage be brazen enough to tell them, please don't do that. But in order for me to advise anybody like that, I would defer to someone else.
So one last question. What would you say is the next great environmental battle that we're going to find ourselves fighting?
Well, anything great, a big bad event would be caused by small things that are occurring today. So if we were to maintain with good guidance from organizations such as our local Community Environmental Council, we should be aware of all the little areas that we need to deal in. Conserving water, making sure that the air is clean, the ocean is clean, and that sound, noise, all of those little things that may not be important while you're struggling to survive. But if you take a step back and really feel what is the quality of life, I think all of those items, all those little things add up to possibly prevent a major that might happen, I don't know when, later on in life, later on in our history. So we need to be better stewards of what we have and how to use it minimally and to be able to enjoy it for the long haul.
So what other questions could I ask you that I might have missed that you'd be interested in answering?
I think you've covered it, and thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks.
Your insight is unique from that photographer's perspective. It's really kind of interesting to see and hear how